we're going to talk about something that I think is super important. All right, so I think it's super important because if I'm honest with you, it's something that I struggled with when I was in high school. Okay, and really it's around one word: being a hypocrite. Right, being a hypocrite. As a matter of fact, it's one of those things that when people say, "Hey, I don't want to go to church," they say, "I don't want to go to church because those people are hypocrites." That's usually the number one reason when you talk to somebody about, "Hey, why don't you come to church? Why don't you want to follow Jesus?" And they say, "Why would I want to follow somebody when all of their followers are just like me?" All right, so I think it's important that we talk about this idea of what is a hypocrite, why is it important, why do I not want to be one? Okay, and so if you don't know what the word hypocrite means, it just basically means that you say one thing, but you live another way. Right, so I can relate to like back when I was in high school, right? Like I did the church thing, I went Sundays, I went Wednesdays, right? And I said I was a Christian, I wore the t-shirts, I went to youth group, I went to youth camp, but everything else in my life was just like all my friends. Nothing was different. Right? That's called being a hypocrite. That's saying one thing on Sunday, on Wednesday, right? When people are looking at me, when my parents are looking at me, when my youth pastor's looking at me, and then when I'm away at school, I'm completely different. Right? That's called being a hypocrite. So, you may not think that Jesus actually talks on this idea because we might think that, hey, this is a new thing. This is something that we're dealing with now in the 21st century. Wrong. He actually does talk about it. And he actually talks about it quite a bit. And so what we're going to do over the next few weeks is we're going to talk about why it's so important to not be that guy, to not be the hypocrite guy. Because honestly, why would anybody want to come experience who Jesus is and what this is all about when you're not anything different like what they are? There's no draw, there's no attraction there because they think, well, they're living life just like me. What makes them any different? Right? But in fact, if you actually are captivated and drawn in by who Jesus really is, and he comes in and he changes your life will be different. Right? You'll approach things different. Like when bad things happen in your life, you'll have hope. When things don't go your way, you'll still have joy. Right? When people treat you wrong, you're still going to treat them with kindness. Right? Those are all characteristics of a Jesus follower, but if you don't actually live that out, how do your friends ever see it as anything different? All right, so I think it's super important to talk about because honestly, every day that you guys go to school, every day that you hang out on your sports teams or your ROTC programs or whatever it is you guys do, every time you do that, you're being a witness for something. Like you're being a light for something. Right? And my hope is that, hey, if you're a believer in Christ and you're a follower of Christ and you're part of our youth group and you've given your life to Jesus, that you're a witness for him. But I know, deep down, I know that we missed the mark. And the reason I know that is because I don't always hit that mark. Like I'm not this perfect figure that's always doing everything right, just like Jesus had asked me to do. And so I know it's important. Because the last thing I want you to do is go through middle school, go through high school, and come and be a part of church, but then never let that actually change your life. So I'm just going to read a couple of verses for you. And again, we're going to break this down a lot more as we dive in later on this month. But I want to read this verse to you here really quick. All right, so this verse is in Matthew 5, and it's 13 through 16. Right? You might have heard something like this before. You are the salt of the earth. This is Jesus talking to his followers. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. As if that wasn't enough, he continues on with the same idea in a new metaphor. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Right, so there's a lot that actually goes into this. I don't have all the time to break this down. But this is actually part of Jesus' first sermon. Like we call it Sermon on the Mount, right? This is Jesus' first big moment. This is his coming out party, right? And he goes in very early on and he talks about this. Honestly, if you're Jesus, this is your first sermon, if this is one of the first things you talk about, I would think it's pretty important. Right? And so he chooses to spend his first sermon talking about this. Which means it's pretty important for us because Jesus knew what he was saying is that, look, if you look no different than everybody else, what's the point? If nothing about your life is different than those that are around you, what's the point? Right? So I think this idea that I just want to kind of lay up for you tonight, present to you tonight as we start this series, is what's the point? Right? Some of us are really good at doing one foot in and one foot out. We're really good at it. I know we're really good at it because I thought I was pretty good at it when I was in school. right? 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like with 1 foot, man, I'm doing all the church stuff. Man, I was even serving. I was playing guitar like in my youth group worship band. Like I was doing all those things. I had the 1 foot in, and on Sundays and Wednesdays it looked really good. And then I had the other foot in everything else, right? Everything else. I was rude. I was arrogant. I cussed a whole lot, right? There was nothing that my friends saw at school that was anything different. I had 1 foot in, and I had 1 foot out. Right? And Jesus is literally saying here at the beginning of the sermon, hey, if you're salt that has lost its flavor, you're useless. All you're good for is just being stomped under people's feet. Right? So I think this is important to begin to think about. Right? So what I want to do is I just want to ask you a couple of questions. I just want to ask you a couple of questions, and you don't have to answer them out loud. Matter of fact, I prefer you don't answer them out loud. I just want you to think. Okay, I want you to think about this. If you are a follower of Christ, if you say like, hey, I'm a Christian, if you identify as a Christian, I want to ask you these questions, okay? Do your classmates know you're a Christian by more than just you saying I'm a Christian? Does your weekly schedule reflect a weekly schedule of a follower of Christ? Do you always produce the best product and model excellence whenever you are working? Are you kind? Do you care about your friends' families and their personal needs? Are you kind to the people who serve you at the grocery store or take your order at the drive-thru? Or maybe, this is even maybe more prevalent, are you kind to those people online? When people hear your name mentioned, what is the first reaction? See, I just want you to think about those questions not only tonight, but just as you are finishing off your week. I want you to ask yourself those questions. Like, man, hopefully my friends know that I'm a Christian. I might have the Bible verse in my Instagram bio or something, right? They might know that I'm a Christian. But when those things start being asked of me, what is the answer? So read this one more time. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand. And it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. So my encouragement tonight, again, I told you it's going to be short. My encouragement tonight is for you to know that you can't do both. You can't do both. You can't do 1 foot in and you can't do 1 foot out because it's useless. It's useless. You can't do both. And a matter of fact, I actually have science to prove it. I looked up some scientific stats. Do you know, this is a study, I'm going to read it because it's really good. All right? Participants who actually just blended into a group when they actually disagree with them, right? So you're just saying, hey, I'm not going to argue about it, I'm just going to blend in because it's easier for me to blend in. Actually had a psychological threat in their head. Their body reacted like they were under a threat. That's how their body reacted. Right? So they may think, hey, it's easier just to blend in. Like, yeah, I'm a Christian, but man, my friends aren't, and so it's just easier for me to blend in. Do you know that your literal makeup of your brain, your body, reacts as though you're under some kind of threat? That's how your body reacts. As a matter of fact, the opposite actually happens. So if you actually stand up for what you believe in, although it may be scary, your body, your brain, your body chemistry actually reacts as though you have conquered a challenge. Right? So think about those of you that are like athletes, right? You set a goal, like whether it's a bench press goal or a mile time goal. When you actually complete that goal, that's how your body reacts when you stand up for what you believe in. It's scary, absolutely. It's hard, absolutely. But literally your body is screaming for you to do it. Screaming for you to do it. So, you got Jesus' words. You've got the literal science behind how your body works. The choice is yours. The choice is yours. Do you want to be all in? Or do you want to keep trying to balance 1 foot in and 1 foot out? Because I'm telling you, no matter how good you think you are, it doesn't work. So, like I said, we're going to talk a lot more about this as the month goes on, but I wanted to give you just that thought. So, not next week because we're going to be at Fields of Faith, but the week after that, when we come in here and we talk about this subject again, just know that when we break off into small groups, I hope that's an encouraging time for you to actually talk about it. Because I want you to know this, if you're somebody who's in that space, who's kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out, this is the place. These are the people to talk to to try to get yourself out of that. Right? Because it's a whole lot easier when you're doing this in community instead of trying to do it by yourself. So I'm going to encourage you now, begin to think about this week, think about it next week, and when we come back here as our regular group in just a few weeks, I want you to share about that stuff in your small groups. So that's the encouragement. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself those questions throughout this week. Right? I want you to think about that. Do my classmates know that I'm a Christian by more than what I say? Does my schedule line up with that of a Christ follower? Do I always produce the best work and work in an excellent manner? Am I kind? Do I care about my friends' families and their personal needs? Am I kind to those people that are in the grocery store or drive-thrus or people that are serving me? Am I kind online? When people hear my name mentioned, what is their first reaction? So I'm excited about this series. I want to walk through this with you guys. I know your leaders want to walk through this with you because I guarantee you, if you're struggling with this right now, your leaders have struggled with it too.